Welcome back everyone, this is going to be quite fun. I wasn't really looking forward to this day. We had a solid year of Blizzard just getting win after win, but like all things, it kind of had to end. Something bad's always going to happen, and I don't think the game is doomed or anything, but this week they did make mistakes that are just too big to brush off. 11.05 is one of the worst patches I have ever seen shipped, and if that wasn't enough, they also topped it off with the $90 amount. So welcome to a rather special edition of the news. At least it's going to be a fun one. First up, the cavalcade of game-breaking issues. Now, not everybody will have seen this. If you're not doing some of the raids, yeah, you wouldn't have noticed, but man, a lot of things actually broke. Some narrow bar bosses are completely broken. There's desync between animations that was killing people in safe spots. Certain spells were not resetting on wipes. Boss timer bugs are causing some bosses to just AFK, so that's awesome. And that's if you don't happen to be disconnected mid-fight, which is actually happening to people. Then classes ended up in a bad state, but they're at least kind of funny. Almost every class had at least one ludicrous bug. Elemental Shamans, they were doing millions of DPS with the new changes. Rogues could actually break their own hero talents to have 5 permanent combo points. Just, yeah, combos after combos after combos forever. Just take a look at Warcraft logs. And not just at the top, look at the bottom as well. Frost Mage is there. It's doing less DPS than Ogvoker. And that one's actually not even a bug. They were actually caught with some stray nerfs that were aimed at Arcane Mage. Same for Frost DK as well. The gigantic nerfs caused so much uproar that the Arceus Discord, which is the Death Knight class Discord, well, it actually just paused invites. Now, those are the worst offenders, but the point here is quite clear. On one hand, people are abusing, or were abusing, broken mechanics to get mythic clears and push massive keys. And on the other hand, classes that were thriving ended up getting dumpstered. This is a patch that just feels like they were halfway through doing the changes, like actually implementing them, but were just told, nah, you gotta ship it. They actually shipped it so undercooked that they gave druids a Demon Hunter icon and forgot to include hotfixes from last week's live build, which is insane. And what it ultimately is no respect for your time or your money. Now, I do not think that it's lazy developers or anything like that. No, I do not think that. I think they do respect your time and your money, but the conditions under which they're working obviously meant that they were not able to ship results that they would be proud of. It does trickle down to other player types as well. As an example, the changes to time-walking scaling made Ulduar, Firelands, and Black Temple substantially harder for under-level 80s, which is not the biggest deal in the world, but it is a bit weird when things just break. People are reporting that level 71s are taking way longer to solo them, and in general, this version of scaling just negatively impacts 70-plus characters the most, particularly ones that are not geared, and that's the scaling that is applied to all time-walking dungeons. This means that leveling your 70s to 80s is not as fast as before, and certainly doing a few time-walking dungeons, yeah, those numbers are all over the place, it's real weird. Basically, if you're anywhere between low level or max, with good gear, you're going to feel really weak and go really slowly, which of course means that fresh characters can actually end up feeling like a blast. Something we of course saw in Pandaria Remix. It's not just time walking though. There is a report that N'Zoth is bugged and unkillable, and that the Shadowlands campaign skip is broken, so until that's fixed, you'll have to do the campaign if you want an alt to go and solo those raids, which kind of blows. And also, orc belts are just really small now. So I guess that happened. And sometimes weapons are insanely massive, and as a weird thing, I've just found that whenever I log into the game, well, my add-ons all turn on. All of them, no matter what I've set. And that happens when I change from one character to another character and back to the original character, and then some people in our community are reporting that edit mode is just refusing to save things for them. Now, you might think that this kind of thing is par for the course, right? A patch comes out, it's an old game, spaghetti code, servers on fire, a few days happen, some fixes are there, and it's fine. It's a part of WoW life. And to Blizzard's credit, it only took a few days to fix most of these issues. Hotfixes are rolling in, keys are being removed from leaderboards, and account actions will be taken for people who are exploiting things like, say, the rogues being utterly broken. But that does not change the fact that this is the worst they have ever shipped a patch, right? The game was effectively, in many different regards, unplayable. Something is not working here, and that's because it's not just the bugs. We need to talk about the event. Okay, let me ask you a question. How do you get event tokens to buy the various tier sets? The actual answer is a humongous checklist of weekly activities. You don't play the game, you open a guide and you do a list of about like 18 different weekly quests. That doesn't feel like playing a game, that is just sampling everything a tiny bit and never getting into flow. So if you log in, you've got a giant wall of things to do, very little of which is new, and that leaves us with a problem. Do you play the game the way that you want to play the game, or do you go for the rewards? Blizzard are telling you to do your chores first. That is how the rewards are designed, and a lot of people will say, if you don't enjoy it, don't play. By the way, I agree with that, absolutely. But from a design perspective, we've got to ask ourselves, what sorts of gameplay does the design encourage? And that's the problem. Now, their plan here is obvious. They want you to be rewarded a little bit with a time gate, so that it's fair, right, for everybody, and everybody's just limited week by week. They already have a framework of weekly content in the game, so they just tied all of that together. But I don't think they thought through the massive set of glaring issues that comes along with all of this. As an example, if you want to farm bronze tokens, you can, but only after getting 100 of them to pop the achievement. Now that pushes you to do a big list of things that you may not want to do, like the PvP weeklies. And with around 36 or so available each week, that means you'll get your first armor set next week, one the week after, and then a few a week while you farm out the rest. But that's pretty much only if you're doing every single weekly thing that there is. And you may say back, okay, Michael, well, how would you do this? How could we do it better? It's honestly quite simple. One thing you could do, and it's absolutely ham-fisted, but you could put a weekly cap of 30 on these, or 40. And you could just make them drop from any activity, but have a little bit more of them drop from the weekly anniversary things. That way, if a raider just wants to raid and doesn't want to do a bunch of time-walking dungeons, they're fine, and the event feels like an exciting bonus, another layer of reinforcement to their game, rather than an 18, 20 weekly thing long checklist that they've got to do. That can burn people out of a game. Here, I think that Blizzard are genuinely afraid of their players, they're afraid of farming, and that's leading to a bunch of defensive designs where Blizzard do not think about the second-order effects of the things that they implement. And it just feels far too much recently in WoW like they don't think about things before they actually go live. It seems they're going so fast that they kind of need players to tell them how to fix things. It's weird. And then we get to the Codex of Chromie. That's not content, Blizzard. What on earth did you ship? I don't know what I was expecting, but I was not expecting that. Number one, a 20-minute queue waiting for tanks and healers, only to get in and find out that you immediately do not need any tanks or healers. Now, the concept is cool. Blizzard tell me, hey, it's the Battle of Anchorage, the Legion may be there, you might find Kel'Thuzad, and I think, oh, great, that's things I know. Cool, make an event. Cook. It's mindless slop. That's not a game, Blizzard. You fly to a location, some enemies spawn into a blender, and then you move on to the next location. What is the point? You are selling a video game. That is not video game. That is slop. And then the only good things about this patch are BRD, the actual mini-events, classic time walking, and the new rewards. Earning the new rewards was, of course, not completely relevant, though. The Codex of Chromie is for everybody, and because they've designed it for everybody, it's slop for nobody that nobody in their right mind would enjoy. I've not seen a single person say that they want to do it anymore, because it's awful. Add to that, most of the class tuning was not remotely finished, and that in many ways the game itself is literally broken. And also, I don't know if you've just been doing anything in World of Warcraft, but I have found the world lag has been really bad the last few days. And then on top of that, we've got the audacity to put a unique quality of life mount with features on it on the store for $90. So let's talk about the Brutosaur. The 5 million gold auction house mount, the Brutosaur, is no longer the most valuable in the game. That's because there's a new mount that does some of the same things, but has actually got even more functionality. So right after this patch released, and rapidly turned into a bit of a disaster in-game, Blizzard pushed the live button on what was absolutely a long-planned promotional item of the new Brutosaur. It costs £60 in the UK, 90 American dollars, or 132 Canadian dollars. I think they pay tax on that as well. And that's on top of it, of course, looking gorgeous, having an auctioneer and a mailbox. So take that, original Brutosaur. Now, what makes this interesting is recently they released the Grizzly Hills Packmaster. Technically, it's a slight downgrade on the in-game transmog mount because there's no vendor items on it, but no, it's basically just another cosmetic option for a piece of quality of life, of utility, that you could get with in-game gold, right? So that still means that while I'm not a fan of it, it is a cosmetic option. Here, though, it's different. The Brutosaur genuinely has functionality that you cannot obtain in the game via any other means right now. And obviously it printed money. A lot of people have got sticker shock, but look, value-based pricing. That is, in the modern day, how you actually make money. You price not based on the cost of production or cost plus margin. No, you price on value to its target audience. And in this case, it's hard to argue that for a lot of people it's not a good value, because they will look at this, they will see that it's a limited availability, and it's the only way that they can have an auction house at their beck and call anytime. That's why, obviously, this is selling like gangbusters. They're everywhere in-game. And WoW tokens shot up from 260,000 gold in the EU to over 400k. I think it actually topped at about 450k before it then slightly started to decline. And that's with periods of WoW token literally being unavailable. Like, ran out. There was a supply problem. That's wild. And do remember, every WoW token that changes hands is another $20 for Blizzard. It's a really well-designed system for getting some more money. Now, at the best of times, this would be frustrating, right? But after this patch launch, it comes across as nothing but pure disrespect. It is a good product, in a way, right? People are happy to buy it, but it's two things. Number one, it's a massive shift in pricing. It's $90. That is more than the cost of the War Within. That is 6 months of a subscription. And by the way, this is a subscription game. Do remember that. Blizzard are absolutely pushing with this to see how high they can go, how much people will actually give them. Two then, it's a store-first mount that's got a unique quality of life thing, the auction house, and the mailbox. The mailbox being the key thing. That means you can auction house and, you can buy and sell from absolutely anywhere. And seeing this, if they want more money next time, well, who knows what they'll cook up. Now, it's worth being real here. There are business pressures from above that are pushing down, right? Look at Overwatch as an example. They have got quite ludicrous with the in-game store and all of that stuff. But Microsoft also cut the entire PvE team. The job cuts at Blizzard really were quite large. From what I understand, there are significant financial pressures on them right now to perform, and perform obviously means money. And looking at this, I think Blizzard thought to themselves, 11.05 is bigger than 05 patches that we've done before. This mount, while it will tick off some people, will be a victory lap. It's a mount that a lot of people want, timed with a big celebration patch that people will love. But none of it really panned out that way, because the patch is not good. It's disgusting, but it's also inevitable. Look at what's happening elsewhere. The $500 skin themed after Faker that was going on in League of Legends, or the whole gacha system that they've just implemented for the Jinx skin that's coming into the game, and their whole plan around hyper-exclusive luxury items. Straight up taking some, Louis Vuitton and putting it into League of Legends. We're going to see that in our games more, Warcraft included. And the frustrating thing is here, we ask ourselves, where is the money going? Is it going back into the game? That sounds like a very straight factual question that has a very straight factual answer. But the thing is, it's an emotional answer. Does it feel like money is going back into the game? Whenever 11.05 comes out, and it is of this poor quality in terms of bugs, all the class stuff, but also in terms of fundamental game design problems, especially looking at you, Codex of Chromie, that is when it does not feel like the money is going back into the game. On the Codex of Chromie, you should not have shipped that, right? Less but better. Do not bulk out your game with meaningless filler fluff that just takes up the time of your designers and gives people another weekly checklist item. That is not game design. That is not gameplay. And if you force your designers to work on Slop like that and ship Slop like that, they will be right to leave your company, because they will care about their own portfolio. Who is going to look at Codex of Chromie and think, I will put that in my portfolio as a feature that I shipped? Nobody. Okay, let's talk about the why. This patch was 8 weeks to the day after the War Within launched. Clearly not ready. It needed more time. Time they couldn't afford because they're so committed to the magic 8 weeks, including their business plans, like with this mount. They can't do the 20th anniversary mount if they've delayed the 20th anniversary, can they? And the problem is that while they've kept their promise of 8 weeks, they have broken the promise of shipping a quality game that is worth paying money for. The quality of WoW has been substantially better, but only in big ways. The big ways, right? They have got a better story. They have better planning. But in a lot of the details, a lot of the small things, World of Warcraft has been getting worse. Class design is good, But tuning is rough these days. Almost every raid and almost every dungeon needs to be nerfed to oblivion within a week or two. Just look what they've done with BRD. It has been absolutely gutted on normal and heroic mode because they just did not ship a finished version of the raid. Maintenance is, of course, often extended because of unstable servers. People are finding the gear system to be quite multi-layered and confusing. The War Within shipped in an acceptable state, and just about an acceptable state. As an example, Awakening the Machine. I mean, that's an awful event. There's basically no design to it. But the thing is, it was planned, obviously, to be far more. A lot of the data mining pointed towards different modes of it, different achievements. It seemed like they were trying to cook, maybe make another version of the Proving Ground, some sort of fun thing to play. But no, that was cut. Awakening the Machine is slop that is not worth doing, just that the reward systems of the game do make it worth doing. Do you remember the initial version of the pre-patch event for this expansion? It was absolute garbage. It was ludicrously poorly thought out, and it took players saying, "What the hell did you just do?" to get it in a state that was actually enjoyable. And that means that World of Warcraft, more and more, is genuinely looking like a paid beta test. And looking at other language players, by the way, on Reddit, that's becoming apparent in things like the quality of translation. I mean, we English readers can see the text is full of typos and grammatical mistakes, but it's actually much worse in other languages. Spanish and German players are complaining about obvious slip-ups and incomprehensible tooltips. Everywhere you look online, you see complaints about customer support so bad that people assume, though it is unconfirmed, that it's basically just all terrible AI cost savings. And the thing to remember here is none of this is the fault of the actual game development team. These are telltale signs of a company that is rushing. I am basically just wondering what boot is on Holly's neck, or whoever it is that ultimately has responsibility for the cadence and the overall model of this game, because the pressure is pushing them to the point where they are going to be burning medium to long-term goodwill. You cannot do more 1105s, and you especially can't do that while asking people for more money than ever before. Clearly something needs to change here. There was fear that we had whenever they announced the move to the 18-month expansions. Every time they've tried to go faster, it's been at the cost of something, and it seemed like at parts, while it wasn't perfect, they were broadly getting there. But this is too far. The old Blizzard will ship it when it's ready mantra, that became an excuse to just never release games, and that did help to rot the company from the inside. But swinging completely to the opposite and releasing a broken mess just for the sake of releasing something is bad. It's a different kind of bad, but it still is bad. And from a strategic point of view, it's one that will disrupt their plans anyway. If you burn your team to do 8-week patches, but then your patches launch in such a state that you need emergency triage and fixes and all of that stuff just to ensure the basic integrity of the game, looking at the rogues and the shamans, well, that is going to eat into the next 8-week patch. And you are going to lose your employees. You can't hack time, but you can manage it. So any of that time will come out of the next 8 weeks. It will come out of the budget of whatever people are supposed to be doing next. And perhaps that means that instead of the Awakening the Machine that a game designer actually thought out to be a challenging mode with some achievements for doing well, we instead get Slop. Maybe Codex of Chromie was not designed to be slop with functionally zero gameplay, but in an 8-week world, it ended up being that. And what that tells me is that if I continue my World of Warcraft subscription, I will not necessarily get quality content that is worth that subscription. So, either way, continuing like this will hurt player sentiment. It will also burn the team to the ground from the inside, because game designers are, generally speaking, people who give a shit, who are self-respecting, who want to do well by their players, who want to ship interesting, well-designed features for their game. If you force them to ship Awakening the Machine, Codex of Chromie, or just take the class design changes that they have genuinely tried to make good, but force them to ship those changes in a way where they end up being broken and causing problems, you will inflict burnout in your team. You are failing basic management psychology. It is ludicrous. So what's next? Well, assuming we don't get an apology patch or a statement or something like that, all eyes will be on the Warcraft Direct on November 3rd. If I was to give any advice to the team, sorry, if you've recorded that, you're going to need to change something or have a statement before it. This is genuinely of unacceptable quality, and I say this coming from a place of wanting World of Warcraft to be good, of fundamentally liking the war within a hell of a lot, and of seeing a lot of my largest criticisms of the game, like the handling of the lore and a lot of that stuff, actually be actioned on well, right? This is from a place of seeing a good goddamn future, and that is why it stings to see it be betrayed like this, to be self-sabotaged like this. And the thing is, I'm one of the people who still gives a damn. For people who returned to the war within, but were a little bit skeptical, who still felt a little bit burnt from the past, this has immediately shat the bed and confirmed their worst suspicions. Now, at the Warcraft Direct, we're expecting 11.05 with a proper 11.1, perhaps in February. Unless something changes, that's Blizzard's plan, and as I do this video, they have just updated the PTR to say 11.07, and there's an encrypted 11.1 build for internal testing. They are going fast. So fast that, yeah, they do risk breaking the whole thing. So, the Warcraft Direct, by usual business wisdom, would be the perfect place to show strength, laud the anniversary celebration, ignore that it's on fire, advertise what's next. But I don't think that will land with people anymore, because the quality of this patch was so unacceptable. And I know that in a way this seems like a video of pure like doom and gloom, and people will be talking about the Warcraft cycle's back again. He liked the start of the expansion, but within 8 weeks he's back to hating on it. Well, the thing is, the start of the expansion was really good. Season 1's been a little bit bumpy, but this patch is genuinely bad, right? This is no bizarre concerted attempt from our side to drum up drama. No, it is that we actually care about the game and we take it seriously. And when you do that, and then bad things happen, you have to talk about them. You have to talk about them honestly and passionately, because if you're not doing that, you're just lying to people, and worse, you're lying to yourself. And then you'll become burnt out and you won't care anymore. There is, though, one bit of silver lining to this. Versus the days of Battle for Azeroth, the leadership team of World of Warcraft is more willing to change, right? They do not feel stuck in the mud. They have actually been responsive to problems. They need to show that here. 11.05 has proven it's necessary. This cannot go on, and they need to address it, because this patch disrespected their players. And if you've disrespected your players, you cannot then go and give them a hard sell at the Warcraft Direct. A few cracks here or there can be brushed over, but this is far worse. Reality cannot be denied. You have to accept it, and once you accept reality, you can move on productively. I think that would be my advice to Holly and anybody who is talking about how they respond to a situation like this. That's it for this video. Okay, I'm going to do something else. See you later.